Darryn Peterson might be the most polarizing elite guard in this draft class. Some scouts see a future franchise scorer. Others see a ball-dominant shot creator in a league that increasingly demands versatility and consecutive play. But one thing is undeniable: the talent is real. At the 2026 draft combine, Peterson measures 6'4.5" barefoot, nearly 199 pounds, and a 6'9" 3/4 wingspan, and a 37.5-inch vertical. These are strong NBA measurements for a soaring guard, especially when paired with his burst and shot-making package. Coming out of Kansas, Peterson averaged just over 20 points per game as a freshman, despite dealing with recurring cramping issues during the season. According to Peterson, the doctors later traced those issues to the amount of his creatine he's taken. The easiest comparison people throw around is Anthony Edwards, not because Peterson is the same elite athlete, but Edwards is more explosive, but Peterson has that same alpha scoring mentality. He has buckets, he's comfortable taking difficult shots, and he genuinely believes no defender can stay in front of him. As a scorer, Peterson already has an NBA bag. He can create separation off the dribble, elevate into pull-up jumpers, and attack downhill and finish through contact. What really stands out is his rhythm in his game. He changes pace naturally instead of relying on pure speed. He's also stronger than people realize. At nearly 200 pounds already, he doesn't get bumped off his line easily. Add the near 6'10" wingspan, and suddenly you're talking about a guard with legitimate two-way tools. But here's the part scouts are debating. Is Peterson a true offensive engine, or is he more of a high-level scoring guard who needs someone else to organize the offense? One concern that keeps showing up in scouting circles is his playmaking profile. Jonathan Weiserman noted Peterson averaged only 2.2 assists per 40 minutes, and some teams worry that archetype score-first perimeter guard without elite table-setting instincts has become harder to build around in today's NBA. And honestly, the criticism is fair. If you draft Peterson number 1 overall, you're betting that the passing develops enough to let him become a true heliocentric creator. If it doesn't, then maybe you're getting a very good all-star scorer instead of a franchise offensive system. That's the difference between Donovan Mitchell and being Luka Doncic. Both are stars, but one bends the entire geometry of the defense every possession. Peterson's defense projection is also interesting. Physically, he should become a positive defender, long arm, strong frame, and good lateral bursts, but the consistency isn't there yet. But still, the tools are absolutely there. Now let's look at Washington. The Wizards are in need of star power, shot creation, and identity. Frankly, someone the fans can emotionally invest in. Peterson checks a lot of those boxes immediately. But the real question is, does he fit better than AJ DeBansa? Most current mocks still have the Wizards taking DeBansa first overall because of the potential value and overall floor. At nearly 6'9" with elite shot-making ability, DeBansa fits the modern NBA wing archetype the front office obsess over. And that matters. A jumbo wing who can score at all 3 levels is simply easier to build around than a scoring guard. Wings scale better in playoff basketball, they defend more positions, they fit next to more stars. So if Washington wants to stay at 1 and takes Peterson, you need to absolutely be convinced he has primary initiator upside. Now the argument for Peterson is pretty compelling. The Wizards desperately need downhill pressure and perimeter shot creation. Peterson gives that instantly in offensive gravity. He can become the face of the rebuild from day one because he plays with visible swagger and aggression. Unlike some young guards, he doesn't seem to be afraid of the moment. Put him beside Washington's young core and suddenly the offense has structure. He gives them a late clock creator, a transition weapon, and someone who can manufacture offense when the possession dies. But there's a risk. If Peterson becomes more of a high-volume scorer than a true offensive engine, Washington could eventually run into the same ceiling issues teams hit with smaller league guards historically, and rebuilding teams cannot afford to miss at number 1. Now here's where things get really interesting. What if Washington actually prefers DeBansa, but believes Utah desperately wants him? Several reports already suggest that Jazz view Peterson as a potential franchise guy, and some analysts think Utah will sprint to the podium if he fell number 2. If that's true, Washington has leverage. They could trade down one spot with Utah, pick up extra assets, and still land the Benson anyway if they know Utah is locked on Peterson. That's a smart front office play. Because realistically, unless Washington generally believes Peterson is clearly better than the Benson, maximization matters. And Utah makes a ton of sense for Peterson. But some reports are also saying that Utah really prefers DeBance over Peterson. And I'm thinking, why not just trade down as well for Ace Bailey and some first-round picks and a second-round pick? That seems like a good plan to me. So here's the bottom line. Darryn Peterson absolutely has number one overall talent. The scoring package, physical tools, and shot creation are elite level traits, but drafting him first requires belief in the playmaking leap. If Washington thinks they become a complete offensive engine, then you take him and don't overthink it. But if they see him slightly below the advanced tier-wise, the ruthless move is trading down to Utah, collecting asset, and still walking away with a safer wing project if Utah decides to take the Benson. It decides to take Peterson at 1 instead of the Benson. And honestly, that is a possible outcome. But the most likely situation is if, with the Wizards believe Peterson is the number one prospect, trade down with Utah and get him at 2. Make sure to like and subscribe for more daily Wizards content. And I'll see y'all in the next one.